Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping straight into the intense, chronologically twisting plot of the 2018 action thriller Sicario, Day of the Soldado. We're going to break down exactly how a covert U.S. government operation spirals into absolute chaos and how the story handles the fallout. So, let's dive right in. So, the inciting incident, our story kicks off with a horrific tragedy. An ISIS suicide bombing in a Kansas City grocery store leaves 15 people dead. Operating on the belief that Mexican drug cartels actually smuggled these terrorists across the border, the U.S. government decides to act. And their strategy? Fight fire with absolute hellfire. They authorize CIA officer Matt Graver to use extreme, completely off-the-books measures. His brutal directive is simple: instigate a massive war between the major cartels to tear them apart from the inside. Section 1. Starting a cartel war. Now, to execute a mission this massive and, let's be honest, completely illegal, Graver recruits operative Alejandro Gillick. Together, they roll out a drastic three-step strategy. First, instigate that war between the major cartels. Second, procure untraceable gear from private military contractors. And that directly creates step 3, which is absolutely crucial: total plausible deniability for the U.S. government. They are essentially building a phantom army. Section 2. The false flag operation.
The objective for this phantom team is to pit two massive cartels against each other, the Matamoros and the Sonoran. It happens incredibly fast. Day 1, Gillick brazenly assassinates a Matamoros cartel lawyer in broad daylight in Mexico City. Day 2, Graver's team kidnaps the teenage daughter of the rival Sonoran kingpin, Isabel Reyes. Then, Day 3, they actually stage a fake DEA raid in Texas to rescue her, making it look like the Matamoros cartel took her in the first place. It is a perfectly engineered frame job.
Section 3. Ambush and betrayal. Okay, so the team plans to drop Isabel off deep in rival territory, but as they cross back into Mexico, the entire plan violently unravels. The heavily armed American convoy is suddenly ambushed, and the crazy part? It's not by a cartel. It's by their own bought-off Mexican police escort. Suddenly, a massive, chaotic firefight erupts right there on the dirt roads, and the Americans are pinned down, forced to fight their way out against uniformed officers. And that brings us to the tipping point. 25. Graver and his team end up killing 25 Mexican policemen to escape. And you just can't hide 25 dead cops, right? It instantly makes global headlines. In all the chaos, Isabel realizes the Americans might actually be behind her kidnapping, so she flees out into the desert, with Gillick tracking her alone. Meanwhile, back in Washington, talk about a massive pivot. The entire justification for the mission completely collapses. The U.S. government discovers that the original Kansas City bombers were actually domestic terrorists, not foreign nationals smuggled by the cartels. Panicking over a major international incident with Mexico over the dead police, the Secretary of Defense orders a total shutdown. The brutal new revised orders: erase all proof, kill Isabel, and kill Gillick. Section 4. Surviving the desert. Graver passes that kill order down, but Gillick, a notoriously cold-blooded assassin, refuses. He goes completely rogue to protect Isabel, and they enact a desperate survival plan. Stripped of all U.S. backing, they disguise themselves as illegal immigrants, hoping to pay human traffickers, known as coyotes, to just smuggle them back into the States. And all the while, Graver and his team are hunting them from the skies using a GPS device hidden inside Isabel's shoe. The tension reaches an absolute boiling point at the border departure spot, and it all hinges on insanely terrible luck. Miguel, a young Mexican-American teenager who works as a coyote, happens to recognize Gillick from a brief chance encounter they had in a Texas parking lot days earlier. Miguel alerts his boss, and instantly, Gillick and Isabel are taken hostage by the trafficking gang. What happens next is a truly shocking climax. As part of a twisted gang initiation, the cartel forces young Miguel to execute a hooded Gillick. Miguel pulls the trigger, shooting Gillick in the head, and they leave him for dead right there in the desert dust. Deeply shaken by what he's just done, Miguel actually abandons the gang immediately and just walks off alone. Now, Graver is watching this apparent execution via satellite. He tracks down the gang and brutally eliminates them. But then, in a really surprising choice of mercy, Graver defies his own strict orders to kill Isabel and instead brings her back to the U.S. to place her in witness protection. And incredibly, Gillick regains consciousness. It turns out the bullet passed cleanly through his cheek. In just an insanely gritty display of survival, he manages to kill a pursuing gang search party by tossing a grenade into their car. Section 5. The Sicario returns. To tie up these intertwining arcs, we fast forward exactly 1 year later. We are back at the Texas Mall where Miguel first laid eyes on Gillick, but Miguel is deeply changed now. He's heavily tattooed, fully immersed in the gang life. He walks into his gang contact's office, but instead of his boss, he finds the surviving operative, Alejandro Gillick, sitting right there waiting for him. A heavily scarred Gillick looks at a completely dumbfounded Miguel and delivers this chilling final line. "So you want to be a Sicario? Let's talk about your future." It is an incredibly tense, open-ended conclusion to the primary plot of the film. Section 6. Reception and the Future. Let's zoom out from the fictional storyline for a second. The film pulled in $75.8 million at the worldwide box office. When you place that against a production budget estimated between $35 and $45 million, it stands as a moderately successful financial outing. It proved there was for sure an audience hungry for a return to this really gritty universe. However, the critical reception was starkly polarized. On one hand, major trades like Variety and The Hollywood Reporter praised it. They called it a dynamic, tough action drama with stellar lead performances. But on the flip side, outlets like NBC News heavily criticized the film's narrative. They argued the plot relied on implausible scenarios and negative stereotypes. So it's definitely a film that profoundly divided its audience. With a third film, reportedly titled Sicario Capos, currently in development, you have to wonder where the story goes next. Did Gillick recruit Miguel to dismantle the cartels from within? Or is he maybe building a brand new army of his own? What do you think this new protege means for the future of the franchise? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.